Happy Friday! Welcome to this week's edition of Shaynel's 3 Cents. I'm your host, Shaynel Caldwell, the founder and executive director of Vibrant Blended Families. And I want to say welcome and thanks again for tuning in today. We're going to have a nice, wonderful, calm show today talking about some of the hottest news stories that we've been talking about in 2019. More recently, within the last 30 days, quite a few new things have come about. But before we go there, we certainly want to take some time to consider a more recent news story that has come about, the recent terror bombings that happened in New Zealand. Some of you are probably wondering, how does that affect me? New Zealand is way, way on the other side of the country. It certainly doesn't have anything to do with me and my family and what I'm doing here in the DMV area. Unfortunately, that's not true. We live in an era where it's coming to light more and more every day, the basis of racist and hatred towards others and people that don't look like us. And that certainly stems from where the bombings came from, because they were bombed at a few mosques in that area. So it really begs the question, what is going to happen to us? What type of future are we creating for our kids? Are we looking at an area, now mind you, we're still fresh off of the civil rights era because a lot of those problems and some of those atrocities happened less than 50 years ago. We're still fresh out of the race riots that have happened down in Los Angeles, some of the issues that we had with some of the police beatings down in Louisiana and some of the other southern states. So we're certainly still seeing a lot of racial strife in the community. It doesn't help that our current sitting president, Donald Trump, is also adding fuel to the fire about looking at, who are you? You look different than I do. I don't like that. And it's not based on, of course, our talents, our skills, or even the fact that some of us may be actual jerks and deserve to be treated a little different because of our poor actions and our poor behavior. But it's more so simply because we don't look the same, simply because we don't have the same religious beliefs, simply because we don't want to vote for the same politicians. So now's the time in the 21st century, 2019, that we really need to start asking ourselves, how are we going to continue to live together in a peaceful society? I think we also have to keep in mind that living in the United States of America, those of us that are here, regardless of how you got here, and I do have to emphasize that, regardless of how you got here, you're here and you probably want to stay. Why? Because we do have religious freedoms. Why? Because we do have opportunities to advance ourselves in our current state of capitalism. And it's basically, for the most part, a good place to raise a family and to enjoy your life. But we still have a long way to go. If you look at some of the things and some of the recent things that have been happening over in Saudi Arabia under the auspices of MBS, they're just now letting women drive. They're just now letting people go to social venues. They're just now letting people listen to music that ordinarily they wouldn't be able to listen to. So we kind of look at them with a side eye like, wow, you guys are just now doing that? But again, as far advanced as we consider ourselves as the United States of America and as Americans, regardless of your ethnicity, we still have a long way to go. And we need to start having these conversations about how do we start to include more people? How do we actually look at people not only because of the color of their skin, but how do we look at someone based upon their actions and what they've said or, what they think? Do we have to not like them? Because it's okay to not like them, but it's the actions that follow that. Does it lead to you being disrespectful to someone? Does it lead to you being racist towards someone? Does it lead to you cheating someone or actually causing them some physical harm? If it does, then we probably need to have the talk. I implore you to please have these conversations with your families, have these conversations within your churches, some of your other groups, and probably some of the groups that you lobby with, for those of us that follow the political circles. But we need to really start reassessing who we are as Americans and how we want to propel our nation further. We know that 45 said, we're trying to make America great again. I think most of us can kind of look back on the past and say, don't want to go outside and pump water into a well. Don't want to go out back and go to the, not the porta potties, but of course the outhouse. I don't want to do that anymore. And I pretty much like having a cell phone and being able to talk to people and maybe visualize some folks that are in another country. I also like the ability to say, hey, I want to go to London. I can hop on a flight and get there in less than 24 hours. So we've made a lot of great advances that most of us probably don't want to go back to wherever that making America great was. But we still have, again, a long way to go to make a better future for our kids, to make a better future for our grandkids, and to make sure that we can live together and not walk outside our houses and have to deal with any hate, not have to walk into our jobs and have to deal with any discrimination, and have the ability to actually live in a capitalist society and thrive if you want to. But again, the conversation needs to be had. So hopefully, again, you'll take this opportunity to follow us after we come back from this break to talk about some recent news stories, to actually look and see what's going on in your community and your society. And we're also going to show you how to spot fake news. If you're getting information on social media, whether it be Facebook, whether you're getting information on Instagram, whether you're actually listening on the radio and or watching television, you need to be very aware of who's providing that information to you, who's shoveling that information in your face and in your ears, and whether or not it's reliable, whether or not it's credible, and whether or not you may have found yourself spreading some false information as well that inexplicably could harm your community and could harm your neighbors. So again, we'll come back after the break and talk about fake news, and we're also going to talk about some real news and how that news affects you and your community. So again, we'll be back right after this break. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you back shortly.
In 2018, I personally helped several people reclaim their healthy lives with a ketogenic lifestyle. Together with our team at Wakaya Perfection, we have helped over 4,000 people struggling with weight loss, burn off unwanted fat naturally, control hypertension, type 2 diabetes, and high cholesterol with our Beulah Fit Keto Fuel Shake and high-impact ginger and turmeric. Contact me for yours. Buttons about that ketolife.mywakaya.com. That's BUTTONSBOUTTHATEKETOLIFE.MYWAKAYA.com or call 202-875-3926.
This is a keto-friendly diet, and weight loss expectation is approximately 1 to 2 pounds per week. Individual results can and will vary.
Business owners looking for a place to advertise your business and promote your products and services? VoxWave is the right place. We have over 10,000 views a day and 70,000 listeners a month. For more information, contact Reg Gaskins at 240-832-4455.
VoxWave now features a streaming radio media player on our website's front page, where local artists can get their music played 24/7. For more information on getting your music in rotation or to perform live at our studio, contact Reg Gaskins at 240-832-4455.
Android users, the VoxWave app is now available in the Google Play Store. Download the app today on your Android device to listen in and view programs.
DJ Rick Entertainment.
DJ Rick Entertainment, hottest DJ in the DMV area, CEO of Step Your Game Up and the Youth Project Show, the DJ on the Heartbeat Conga Hour, and sound engineer for a variety of bands. DJ Rick Entertainment is your #1 company for all your stage and sound event needs. Call 202-390-1151. That's 202-390-1151.
DJ Rick Entertainment.
Welcome back. We are here on Shaynel's 3 Cents with our special guest co-host, Mr. Valario Johnson, VJ.
Hey, how you doing?
All that good stuff. So as I was sharing with the viewers, our topic of discussion today is going through all the recent news stories. Now, of course, we talked a little bit about, of course, the bombings over in New Zealand with the mosque, and we didn't talk about the 737 MAX 8. I got some flights coming up. I got to check and see look what's happening there. I don't know if they're all grounded or not, but we'll follow up on that. But some of the exciting news, Paul Manafort. Yay! So big news in the Paul Manafort case. For those of you that have been following along, originally Paul Manafort got caught up. Poor guy got caught up in a lot of illegal bribery, tax evasion, mail fraud, wire fraud.
All that.
Look, just about everything that you could think of for white-collar crime, literally Paul Manafort has been accused of it, has been convicted of it, has admitted to doing so. So his first trial, everything went well with regards to all the evidence that they presented, all the witnesses and all that good stuff. And so while we were anxiously waiting his sentencing, we knew that he was looking at anywhere from possibly 15 to 20 years. And so, again, if you were like us, we were literally glued to our TV sets like, oh, what they going to give him? And when they gave him
6 months.
look, I think was it 4 years and 6 months, basically
47 months.
47 months.
Yeah.
Again, okay. That's all you got? That's all you got? Okay. So again, we were disappointed about that. Now the good thing is that they did make him pay some restitution and pay some money that he owed the government to the tune of about $5 million. So I'm waiting to see where that money is going.
Should go to reparations. Oh, did I say that? No.
And I think his actual restitution to the court was maybe like $50,000 or something like that. So, of course, that was a big thing because we do know that when we're looking at sentencing, there's always a lot of racial disparities when it comes to sentencing. If you look like us, particularly on this side, if the judge says you're looking at 15 to 20, you're probably going to get 15 to 20. So
you're saying if I had a bag of marijuana, I would have got 47 months? Or I got 15 to 20?
Looking like that? Or if you want to do some facial bleaching, yeah. If you had some facial bleaching, then yeah, you probably could have got some shorter months. But nah.
Okay.
So the good thing, and I was very excited to hear about this, on the 13th, I think that was Wednesday, he went back to court, this time in the district courts in D.C., and he got an additional 3.5 years added. So now he's looking at a little less than 8 years. So we like, yay! Those of us social justice advocates, because we know he did it because he admitted to doing it. We also know that he had the evidence. They had the paper trails and those things that came up behind him. We also looked at how, people when they go to court, do you get to go to court in your prison jumpsuit? Do you get to go to court in your suit? And so when he came for his second round, he was all suited up, looking nice in the courthouse. And I'm a big proponent of, yes, you should look good when you go to court. I don't think that it's already what am I trying to say?
I have no idea.
Thank you. It's already looked upon negatively when you're not dressed appropriately for the courthouse, a la having on your prison jumpsuit or something like that. They look at, oh, well, you definitely look like you committed some crime, so we're going to give you some time. So I'm a big advocate when you go to court, have on your Sunday best, for those of you that know what Sunday bests are. But he was all suited up and all that good stuff.
He had his Easter suit on.
He did have on his Easter suit. He was still in the wheelchair suffering from gout, and they said it was just so bad. I'm like, I remember growing up, Grandma used to complain, oh, I got the gout. But I'm like, really? Yours is that bad to where, you suffering and acting like you dying behind some gout?
Oh, you think you lose a foot over there? That's a real thing.
Oh, I don't have a problem with him losing a foot. I know some diabetics that have lost a foot.
Thing, so it must be an all-man thing.
Yeah, it does predominantly affect men. So, yeah. But he looked real sickly, and I was kind of intrigued by the argument that he gave the court. Not only did I do these things because I admitted that I did it, I pled guilty to doing these things, but I don't need a lot of time because I got to take care of my wife. I'm the sole caregiver for my wife. And you're taking all my money, my legacy that I built for my children and my grandchildren. So I was like, yeah, we pretty much wasn't buying that either.
Tupac said it best. It's a white man's world. I don't think I could say that in court. I got to take care of little VJ.
Well, I mean, that was, I think, the largest part of the courtroom information that we got, because of course he was quoted as saying such. But I'm like, when I think of the many numbers of black men that go to court, they're typically the head of the household. They're typically the primary caregiver. And I'm sure either them or their attorneys have also made that case that, hey, I'm the primary caregiver. I think this is important. If you can offer a little bit of leniency, my family's dependent upon me, and they still got the book thrown at them. So
I wonder, what is the, I should have looked this up before I got here. I was trying to look it up now. What is the percentage of white-collar crime committed by black folks? Like, because I would love to see that.
I had that chart last week.
Yeah, because, black men typically go to jail for violence or drug-related or...
Mm-hmm.
I don't know too many brothers. I ain't got no brothers in my network. Well, I do know a couple, but...
that are being convicted of white-collar crime.
That got in trouble for white-collar. I do know a couple.
Okay. No, it's. I mean, it's
I would
interesting.
love to know,
and that's not to say that
because all them
we don't commit those type of crimes, or people don't commit them, but the conviction numbers are a lot lower. But again, we also don't have the means to do a lot of that white collar crime.
You think that's true?
Look, I would say that.
Your man Jack Johnson, that's a white collar crime, right?
Oh yeah. Look, and that's actually a very good case, and it's close to home. So yeah, that was an example of someone that got convicted of white collar crime. So I like that. They had a lot of people that were upset and disappointed because they said there were some things that wasn't added. We had the legal documents, but they had a lot of folks that were complaining that, that was really enough. And one of the judges was actually quoted as saying, well, if you've ever been down to a federal jail or a federal prison, you spend a week there, you know that that's enough. And I'm like, okay.
State penitentiary. What is it? State penitentiary? Which one's worse, state penitentiary or federal? I've never been in it. I haven't.
Well, the allegations are that federal is much more of a cakewalk than being in the state system.
Club Fed is where he's going.
Club Fed, yes. And so I think that the thing that meant a lot to me was the judge, and I'm not sure if it was Judge Jackson or not, but the judge was quoted as saying, if anyone does that, they know how hard it is, so we try to give him the least amount of time as possible. So I'm like, I think I may have to start following this judge and following that courtroom, because I want to see if he's treating everyone else the same way, that he knows that jail is bad, the federal prison system is bad, so he's not trying to give people a lot of time. Because I'm looking at it like this, all the time that he was doing this stuff, he was still committing crimes after he had been accused. He was still committing these crimes after he had gone to court for all the preliminary stuff. He was still trying to get witnesses to lie on his behalf while he was awaiting sentences. So I'm just like, really, this man really he was balling out. He was doing whatever the heck he wanted to do. So again, we have no sympathy for him. I have no sympathy for his family, because basically if they had took his money and did what they wanted to do with it, it wasn't really his money. That was a little bit of my money, a little bit of y'all money. So I have no sympathy for Paul Manafort. And I'm looking forward to him starting the rest of his jail time, because now they're talking about whether or not he'll have to do them or he'll be allowed to do the terms concurrently, so that instead of doing the 7 years, he may still actually do a little over 4 years. And they said, oh, well, he's old and all that good stuff. I'm like, yeah, but when he was spending that money and lying with those politicians and cahooting with those folks over in Russia, he had a good time on them yachts and them boats and them planes and them fancy restaurants and all them clothing and shopping trips and stuff that his family got to take. So, he got nothing coming from me.
No sympathy, no empathy, no understanding. It was a good run, though.
Yeah, it was. It's just unfortunate. I hate to see so many people going down with our presidentship. So many people convicted, and clearly he's just absolutely clueless that his friends are all doing crime and doing all these bad things around him. So I feel sorry for our president. I think I definitely got to give him our support. No. So also in recent news, for our folks in my former home state of California, West Side, I still do all my West Side, all that good stuff. Some awesome new news has come out, and I'm still waiting to get some feedback, of course, from our president, one of our presidential candidates, Kamala Harris. The governor of the area, Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, has decided that he's going to stop allowing people to be executed in the state of California, which is a big deal, because California is one of several states that allow the death penalty, and San Quentin is famous
for the death penalty.
Yeah. And so it's a big deal, because we know that most of the people that are on death row happen to, again,
look like you.
Yeah, well, more like you.
Yeah.
Well, more like you. No, I don't know. But that was also one of his arguments. Now, mind you, the people and the voters of the state of California voted for the death penalty, and they have consecutively for quite a long time. Remember, California was one of the first states that instituted the 3 strikes law, saying you have 3 times to get convicted and then you're going away for life. No possibilities of parole or probation. So, again, he has defied the voters in the state of California by saying that he is putting a moratorium on the executions.
That's a good thing, though.
Is it a good thing if your people want you to do one thing but you're doing something else? Because we're seeing that with Donald Trump. we didn't want a border, and he's still trying to do this border thing.
So what you saying?
I'm asking a question. Because it does.
Is it a morality issue though? Like,
was it a morality issue when they put it on the ballot that we killing people an eye for an eye because it's in the Bible?
I don't think it reads like that in the Bible though.
Old Testament, Old Law.
Yeah. But I don't think it reads like that in the Bible.
Well, it does have to be something that you have to take into account. But again, that's why they allow the people to vote on it. It's
Y'all
not
vote
something
for
arbitrarily.
everything in California. I love California. It's all about the people. Like, they just throw everything on a referendum. Is that what it is? Mm-hmm. Yeah, just people decide everything.
I think we should, because it matters. It's how you're going to live your life, whether or not you're going to stay and continue to pay taxes to this state. So I think it's a great idea. Now, I do think that, but Governor Newsom is getting a lot of flack from people that are saying that he's going outside of what his voters want. But again, you got to love the arguments that it's being disproportionately held against people of color. They've also had a lot of people that have been executed that were exonerated after the fact. And there's no get back after you done killed them.
Yeah, no, Easter Sunday for them.
Yeah, nothing about that. And of course, with some of the progressions that they made, the police are making in science with DNA, and they're like, okay, we've had this person on death row for 20 years. Come to find out it wasn't even them. So he's also looking at the money that's attached to it.
So California has like 700 people on death row. Like, it's like the largest death row.
Death row.
So
he in jail too.
Now, it never, I'm a Tupac fan. It never made sense to me why that record label. I get it now, because California
Death Row
is
Records.
It.
Oh, okay, I get what you're saying.
Now you get it, right?
Death Row. Okay.
Death Row, okay, Bad Boys Death Row, and then like literally, you got 700 people on Death Row like that. And I always thought California to be like sunny and happy and bubbly.
We
that's
still
rough.
are sunny and happy and bubbly until you break the law.
Not when you're killing. No.
Well, we can talk about some of the notable folks that are on death row.
Like who?
Well, we can talk about one of my favorites, Richard Allen Davis. Richard Allen Davis, I think they say he's 64 years old. He's been on death row since 1996. I remember when I was growing up, he was a gentleman that was convicted of murdering and kidnapping 12-year-old Polly Klaas from Petaluma, and that was actually not too far from where we lived in Sacramento. And he got picked up. His case was the case that actually propelled the whole 3 strikes legislation, because he was a habitual offender. But I remember being a young woman at that time being, oh my gosh, there are people picking up kids on the street and killing them. So he's on death row there. Vincent Brothers, he's a former high school principal. He killed his wife, his 3 kids, and his mother-in-law.
But these people kind of work against your original argument. Like, these people actually did these things.
And
like,
most
these
of them
aren't
don't
the
look
people,
like us. But they famous though. These people are famous. You see their documentaries on.
But these are like real people, real killers though. Like,
well, they're only real if you can convict them. They only did it if they can be convicted.
I mean, these are major like folk, like real killers. Like
the stories that the shows are made out of, Snapped and all that.
Yeah, this ain't circumstantial evidence, that suppression of evidence, and someone just gets like, these people like did that. Speaking
of Snapped, one of the other famous people that are sitting on death row, my girl Angelina Rodriguez. Hey, I'm kidding. Angelina Rodriguez killed her husband, and again, this straight out of Snap, killed her husband. Was trying to get his life insurance, but because the circumstances were kind of cloudy, the prosecutors said, well, not the prosecutors, but the medical examiner said they couldn't determine the cause of death. And so she started harassing, going to the police and, going to the life insurance people. So they did some more testing and found out that they had killed him, gave him some antifreeze.
She should have just shut up, right?
She was convicted in 2004. So we'll see. But they also said she also killed her infant daughter back in 2004. She was never convicted of that, but yeah, so they even have women on death row in California. So I think with that story, we have issues with, yes, most of the people that are on death row in the state of California, those 700 numbers plus, do look like us. A lot of them didn't have adequate representation when going to court. You know, Manafort's defense team, I think they alleged almost a little over $1 million for his team. I don't think a lot of them had that, but there they sit on death row, no opportunities for appeal, or rather a viable appeal, because we do let you appeal in the state of California.
If I spend $1 million, I don't want to go to jail.
Well, he didn't want to go to jail.
But $1 million and you still got to go to jail? You must have really messed up.
Or look, what they call a preponderance of the evidence. Yeah, he had a freaking avalanche of evidence.
Well, that's a criminal, so that's reasonable doubt, beyond a reasonable doubt.
Well, Roger Stone, one of his 7 degrees of separations. They said Roger Stone, the evidence in his case would equal, if you piled all the paperwork and the evidence up, it would be twice the size of the Lincoln Monument. So when we talk about evidence for Roger Stone, he got stuff going on. So I'm waiting for his trial. I think they pushed it back to late this year, possibly in September. So we'll be eyes glued to the set for that as well.
I'll watch that one.
Oh, yeah. He a trip.
See what Rachel talking about tonight.
So I think that I'm going to go pro Governor Newsom to say, yes, I think this is a good idea that the state starts to rethink how much money they're putting into the death penalty system, because it costs more money to house an individual on death mate and to execute them than to let them live out the rest of their sentence.
But it costs more money, period, to put someone in jail.
Well, that's why a lot of the jails are starting to outsource and, put the prisoners to work to recoup some of that money.
Sounds like slavery.
Wasn't there another judge that was just convicted? I think they gave him 10 years for that.
Yes.
Sending kids over these farms.
Straight to jail. What amendment was that? Is that 18th Amendment? No.
For cruel and unusual?
No. That freed the slaves, but then said 14th?
It's either 14, I think it was 14 or 15. Yeah.
So when they emancipated the enslaved Africans, there's a clause in there that said if you get caught for doing something wrong, if you get arrested and convicted, you kind of go back into that system.
Then you become an indentured servant.
And you become a property of the state property. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think that
But you know
I don't think we have some flaws in our criminal justice system.
No, we don't.
We definitely have some flaws in our criminal justice system, and it's definitely favored towards people that don't look like us. Towards people that don't look like us. Why? Because it costs money to represent yourself adequately. Yeah. And most states, most jurisdictions have way too many defendants and not enough public defenders where they're giving people adequate time to actually have their cases reviewed. We see that all the time.
All they do is cut deals anyway. Yeah, they cut deals.
Yeah.
So, to stay, if you don't want to go to death row, you go to college.
Good answer.
College. Well, how would I get into college after I complete my admissions application?
Participate in some scam. Like the rich and famous do.
So yes, this is of course our next topic of discussion in the news, the college admissions scandal, # college admissions scandal. I looked, and I remember I was actually at work when the story broke, and I was like, what the, really though? So for those of you that have not heard and not have kept up, there are 10 colleges that have been charged, well, not the colleges have been charged, but 10 colleges that were named to actually have had students be admitted to their schools when they should not have. They did not qualify based on grades. They did not qualify based on test scores. They did not qualify based on their athletic abilities. But they got in because their parents had money.
But let's do this. Before we even look at the scam, why your people got money and you ain't learning?
So you're let me see if I'm
like everything's at your fingertip.
So if my parents are rich, I should be able to have the best tutors. I should be able to go to the best little side schools to make sure that I'm getting all the knowledge that I need to get. And I shouldn't have an issue getting into the college. Is that what you're asking?
I'm not understanding. Because, like, the world I live in, kids ain't learning because they broke. Their parents broke. Can't afford no opportunities. Can't get the computer. Can't get the educational resources.
Don't have money for lunch because you can't focus in school because you're not being fed. You don't have shoes and clothes to go to school, so you're dealing with rejection and bullying because of the way that you look.
These kids can go all over the world. They got cars. I know they got computers in their house. I know.
Well, I also think it's...
Why they not learning?
Kind of, don't we have a new justice, Supreme Court justice? And I think his examples were the best. He was in high school, partying, beering it up, kicking it. So I think maybe when you have a lot of money...
He kept a calendar, though. It's very detail-oriented.
Drink this day, party this day, yachting this day, traveling this day. So
but
I think the problem with those rich people, I think, is that they really have way too much money to interfere with their study time.
But he showed intelligence. I mean, at 17, I ain't had no organizational skills, no time management. You know, I wasn't on, you know.
Well, maybe he got that. So he was able to pick up some intelligence from his parents.
But I don't understand. That's the thing that...
Maybe.
Yeah. How you not have any grades?
How you rich and dumb? That's basically what you're asking, how you rich and dumb. And I wonder what some of those students, I think as of today, there are maybe 2 students that have spoken out about it. I'm like, that makes you look like a dumbass. Yeah. That your parents had to cheat to get you into school. And I wonder what all their peers are saying. Oh, my goodness. That's your mama. That's your daddy. Your mama just got picked up by the FBI. Your dad just got arrested by the FBI.
Yeah, I don't understand that. I thought... Yeah, opportunities, resources would give you, you know, because I believe all young people have the similar capacity to be great. You know, some have more and some have less, but in general, like I was
everyone has an opportunity.
I think I was preaching last week or the week before that it's the systems that you get into that determine success or failure. I guess not.
Well, no, that's true too, because we also have the case of the young woman, and unfortunately I can't think of what her name is, and I can't see it on my notes right now, but the young woman that was convicted in 2011 of putting her kids in a better school in that better neighborhood. She used her father's address to get her kids into a private school, and when they found out, they told her that, hey, your kids don't belong here, you're outside of this district, you owe us $30,000. And when she refused to pay the money, then that's when they told her she had to go to jail. And I think she spent maybe like 2 weeks in jail or something, but also said she had to pay all this money back because she tried to put her kids in a better school system.
Right.
And so I understand that parents need to want to do that, and it actually happens a lot. I remember when we were young, that happened to us. You know, our mom used a cousin's address to try to get us into a better school district. And y'all know where she at. Y'all can find my mom if y'all looking for her.
Crazy, you selling out your mom already?
But it's still one of those things that, okay, Aunt Becky from Full House. Everybody know Aunt Becky. They got her face around there. Lori Loughlin. I think she was picked up on Wednesday or Thursday.
Becky is the parent that got caught.
Yeah, well, her husband,
Becky?
Aunt Becky from Full House. They had the little twins, her and John Stamos.
Jesse's wife.
Jesse's wife. Her name was Becky.
Yeah.
Aunt Becky. So, yeah, they arrested Aunt Becky. Aunt Becky went to court on Thursday, I believe, yesterday or Wednesday. And Aunt Becky got $1 million worth of bail. So we was like, yay! Oh, we're so sorry to hear that happen to you. So she had to bond out. Her daughter, I want to say her daughter was, I think she had 2 daughters. That she wanted them to get into school, and they ended up paying about $500,000 to say that they played on this athletic team that the high school didn't even have. The high school didn't even have that as a sport, but they lied and said they were on the team and they did excel. And, of course, they got their money and they got to go to the school.
I'll read this to you. This is what I thought was interesting. I was looking for it. So, in a phone conversation with parents secretly recorded by agents, Singer boasted he had helped more than 850 students of the wealthy and powerful to lie their way into colleges in just 2 years. Leland said that in some of the cases known to investigators, the children were aware of the con carried out on their behalf, but that others were kept in the dark by their parents. Hold on, let's keep going. This is what's crazy.
So some of them knew.
Yeah, right. This was a case, said Joseph R. Bonavante, special agent in charge of FBI in Boston, in which parents flaunted their wealth, sparing no expense to cheat the system so they could set their children up for success with the best education money could buy, literally. Now, hold on, watch this. Watch this. Ready? We'll hear this. Singer, the scammer, who owns a college preparatory company, ran his ploy through Key Worldwide Foundation, a charity started in 2012. Prosecutors said in court papers. Guess what? The organization's mission to provide education that would normally be unattainable to underprivileged students.
Yeah, I think I saw of the 80 parents that have been charged, one of them looked like us. One of them was a person of color. But yeah, apparently all of those folks were disenfranchised and not able to otherwise get into college, which is why their parents went there. So yeah, William Singer ran this whole operation, and the thing that makes it awesome, now hear me, you people that like to skirt the law, and those of you that are just creative and that could probably do this better, he not only had a for-profit business where he was helping the kids get better grades and all this good stuff, but he also had a nonprofit that he would funnel the money to so that the parents were able to write it off on their taxes. So they would give him the money to say, hey, fix my daughter's ACT scores, or hey, say my son is a captain of the crew team, and get them into school. And then they would be able to take the money back and count it as part of their taxes. So I'm like, brilliant.
He would charge $15,000 to $75,000
to Photoshop your kid's face.
Also,
on a picture of athletic team.
Also, the scam included these rich folks saying that their kids had special needs, so they can. But I was like, dang.
Yeah, I think that was one of the pieces that I think they sat in the back for a little while about the special needs stuff, because there's also a huge backlash. I was reading some stories this morning from a community of community of disabled folks that were saying, how dare you, say that you belong to this group. You don't know some of the hardships that we suffer trying to get into these schools and to gain access to these schools. So it's really unfortunate. I also thought that it was kind of interesting that one of the families, the Abbott family, apparently their daughter, they paid thousands of dollars for them to fix their daughter's ACT scores. She got a 35 out of 36, which is phenomenal. But they fixed her scores. And then one of her brothers came out and said, he's really disappointed that this had to happen. He would have hoped that his parents would have thought better and better prepared them. But then he got another brother. He's a rapper. And he was interviewed by NPR the other day, standing outside on his New York Avenue apartment, smoking a blunt, saying, it's a shame that they trying to arrest my parents and do all this stuff. That's just wrong. It's a shame. They should go to jail. So that happened this morning. So you have one son saying, that it was wrong. And by the way, this young rapper, he's got a new album out called Cheese and Crackers. So we're supposed to be trying to go get it. But he admits that he didn't go to college, but he thinks that people are making too much of a big deal out of this. But
of the scam or going to college?
Of the scam, yes.
No,
even though his sister was able
to. It's a real scam. It's messed up.
Hey, like I said, got some tax evasion charges. Got some racketeering charges. They got all this mail fraud, wire fraud. And I'm excited. I'm waiting to see what's going to happen. I'm also waiting to see what the judges are going to say in the different areas, because, of course, even though they looked at Singer from where he lived, they're also looking at the colleges and the universities. And a lot of the colleges said either the people that no longer are employed with the college, they're still going to look into those records and see if there were any other students impacted. Some of the colleges have already placed some of those coaches that have been indicted, on administrative leave. I know one of the schools also fired somebody just based off the allegations. So the colleges are trying to trying to clear things up and try to do right by themselves, to say, hey, we weren't aware of this. You know, we were just as much a victim, you know, as anyone else. But then you have students at these schools that are now filing charges against the university saying, now my education is not going to mean as much because our reputation's been tarnished. So now you need to owe me some money.
That's a good one. I wonder if these same.
I knew my daughter should have went to USC because we could have got in on this lawsuit. It's going to be a fat class action lawsuit.
It is going to be nice. I wonder if they're going to advocate for. Well, no. Well, I'll save that for later.
We'll see. We'll see, because I am concerned about whether or not, you know, once the kids got in, was it just, we're going to do this to get you in, or was it perpetuated while they were on campus, that they were paying off professors, you know, whether they had any of those connections to make sure, I got a D in this class, so we're going to fix your D and turn it into a B.
Exactly.
And so I know that the investigation is still ongoing, but again, we're watching a lot of the figures that are out there, that the celebrities that have been charged, and seeing what's going on with them, and whether or not they're actually going to get real time, whether or not they're going to get probation, and whether or not they're also going to have to pay restitution back to either the government, the schools, and most definitely the IRS, because a lot of them were picked up and indicted off of tax fraud.
So, stay tuned.
Absolutely. It's definitely something that we're going to watch every day, because I'm excited. I want to make sure that everybody getting at least 3 to 4 years, whatever the max amount is. So hopefully your kids are smart enough and they got law degrees and they can defend you when you go to court.
You know, these are thinking parents. Planned Parenthood would be proud. They thought about it.
Planned Parenthood, look, I'm glad you brought that up. That's also a big thing in the news, the new Planned Parenthood legislation.
I know you got a lot to say about this.
Well, you know, Planned Parenthood is near and dear in my heart, because I planned all of my parenthood. Excuse me. Say that. And I think this also bears noting, most of the Republican base hates Planned Parenthood, because most of them have I want to say that it's rooted in Catholicism. So a lot of them are, you know, from the Catholic Church, and they're all things anti-birth control, anti anything that the Bible speaks about in the Old Testament. So they don't want to do anything that the Old Testament said is wrong. I don't think that most of them have picked up the New Testament or understands that. But most of the Republican base has been pushing to defund Planned Parenthood.
Is it the whole Planned Parenthood, or just the abortion aspect of Planned Parenthood? Because
well, remember, you wouldn't need Planned Parenthood if you were married. If you were married and in a proper, healthy marital relationship, you could just go to a doctor. You wouldn't need to go to Planned Parenthood.
But Planned Parenthood provides a whole host of services, not just free abortions, right?
Mm-hmm. That is true.
A whole bunch of stuff, right? Positive stuff for women.
That is true. And men. They also have services for men.
What kind of services they got for men?
Again, health services.
Snips, you mean?
They do that as well. They do that as well, but they treat men as well. So if you have health issues, STDs,
they got about 3 issues.
Primary care. They also have primary care providers on hand, nurse practitioners and all that good stuff. So it's not solely for women, and you know, men that aren't trying to control their birth. You know, that's a whole nother venue. But the issue that came about recently, the Ohio Federal Appeals Court said that, yes, the government can stop, the state of Ohio can stop sending funds to Planned Parenthood. And it's a big deal because there are a lot of people that utilize the services. It's cheaper than going to other doctor's offices, a la urgent care, or a lot of people that utilize the services are also people that have that are below the poverty level and of lower median income. And so they have an opportunity to have access to these healthcare services. And they're in a lot of areas, and people also are able to get some services for free and or in conjunction with their state and or county healthcare programs. And so it's a big deal, and I think that for us, it's that step towards defunding, the federal government defunding all of Planned Parenthood sources for the entirety of the United States. Now, one of the big stories, and this is where we're going to get into soon about fake news, is that people had a video, and I think this was back in 2016, that had some folks from Planned Parenthood saying, oh, we're taking these fetuses and we're doing all this experimentation with them, and we're utilizing them on the black market and all this stuff, which was ultimately turned out to be fake news and it wasn't true. But that's also how Planned Parenthood got another bad rap and how a lot of that was still kind of swept
So
under
let me
the
ask you
carpet.
this: if that's not true, where all that stuff go?
It's hazardous waste. Most of it, no, really, most of it is hazardous waste.
Some biological stuff going on with that.
Maybe.
There's some studies going on.
Maybe.
Yeah,
But they also ask you that when
trash
if
can.
you go
It's
to an
not going in the trash
OBGYN, they ask you if you want to save that. They have the core banking, and they also have if you
It's not
have,
going in the
and
trash
that you
can.
can sign to say we'd like to do that. I mean, don't you want to push science forward?
It's so messy. It's like a science in one
Hey,
of the science fiction
if
movies.
you didn't want to abort the baby, you don't want the baby, then you don't want the remains either. So
I was watching Blacklist. Y'all know what Blacklist is? Mm-hmm. Okay. They had an episode on there about this. I'm just
really?
saying, it's big money out here. It's big money
Science.
for those biological remains.
And do you know who's buying a lot of those biological remains?
How it get underground? If it start above ground, how it get? I'm just saying, something is true about that fake news.
Well, I think the FDA, well, not just
It's
for
not
Planned
going into
Parenthood,
the trash
but
can.
Planned Parenthood isn't the only place where you can get an abortion. But I don't think the FDA has legitimately approved utilizing fetal cells.
So where are you? The government should fund your abortion, or they should not?
Well, if the government doesn't look, and if the government doesn't fund your abortion for whatever reasons, they may ultimately end up funding your child's life.
So you say it's cheaper.
Support services for
so
school,
pay the $400
medical.
up front instead of the $400,000 on the back end.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Survey says.
Good answer.
Think about it. We're thinking about it like that.
No,
So
I mean that's,
$400 up front. But isn't the government making money off of these people going to jail anyway? Everybody makes
if
money
they
off
if they
of people,
go,
right?
if they go.
Everybody's making money alive, right? 400,
They making money off all of us,
right now.
Well, we'll see.
and they sleep.
We'll see. So let's talk a little bit about now that we've talked about those 4 stories and given you some recent updates, things that of course may impact your community. Let's talk about how to spot fake news
I
versus
thought that
real
was really
news.
nice of you to put that together. I
had-
never knew fake news. You know, I just learned that when you Google stuff, if it says AD in green by it, don't click on that. 'Cause
What does AD in green mean?
You got to look it up. I don't know.
It's
But-
an ad that
Oh,
someone
okay.
paid to put that up
Advertisement,
there.
AD.
Advertisement. That it's an ad.
That was after Christ, auto dominion. I didn't know. But you don't click on those. I didn't know. If you click on those, they start fishing. And
Again,
they
it's
send
learning,
stuff to you.
teaching you how to do research. And most of us learn this in pretty much junior high and high school, you know, how to do research. And
That's
one of my
because we
pet
didn't have
peeves, those of
computers.
you that follow me on Facebook, one of my pet peeves is sending me, messaging me articles about this and this and this. And I'm like, really? Why would you, did you read this or you just sent it to me because of the headline? So what we're going to do, our Facebook friends, we'll have this posted on the website later. But for those of you that are watching on YouTube, we're actually going to put up some info on how to spot fake news and how to stop looking like an idiot saying some stuff that's not true, basically.
Like what? What's fake news out here?
That look, well,
R. Kelly fake news?
we'll talk about it.
That
We'll talk
video
about it.
wasn't fake news.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and put this up on screen. And again, these are some highlights on how to spot fake news. So the first one is consider the source. Is it an opinion piece? You want to look for disclaimers if it's on a website. And you also want to look at websites whether or not they have a contact us section or if they have an about us section on the pages on the websites. An opinion piece, typically you'll see that it's who it's written by, and it will say opinion if it comes out of a newspaper. So someone will say this is opinion. Plus, in an opinion piece, people will say, well, I think that he should do this, or you'll notice that they say things that are very extreme, like, I can't believe he had the nerve to do that. That's not a real news story. That's someone's opinion thinking that. So that kind of lets you know who is putting this information out. So you want to be mindful of that. So the next one is look at the URL. For those of you that may be unfamiliar, the URL is the www. If you're looking for credible sources, they include anything that's www.abc.gov, www.abc.edu, .mil, and .org. All those are typically credible sites. Same thing, if you're looking at an article, does it link you to other sources? Because those of us that work in journalism, that write, we also want to provide additional sources. Don't just trust me, trust what other people are saying. So if it doesn't have a link to any other sources or said this person spoke to NPR on this day, this person spoke to Washington Post on this day, then it's probably fake news.
So fake news is a real thing.
It is. It is.
So Donald Trump, I didn't hear about fake news until Donald Trump. So he did something good.
He did. He did.
Told us about fake news.
Yes. Yes, so one of the other things that we're looking at when we talk about considering the source, and you all have to forgive me, I just moved this. We're going to go back. I don't want you to see what's going on in my mailbox.
No pics. No pics.
Okay, we're having some technical difficulties, so we're going to, we'll post it up later, but we're still going to continue to talk about it so that people will know back on how to consider the source. You also want to figure out whether or not are other people talking about the story. If there's only one person or one site talking about the story, then it's probably fake. If it's such a big deal, why is only such and such reporting on it?
So in that case, was weapons of mass destruction fake news? Because everybody talked about that.
Probably not. But you should be able to get different versions of what was going on with the weapons, who was allegedly manufacturing them, who they were allegedly being sold to. So it's, again, are other people reporting on the story? Now, mind you, you still have that late breaking news, which is why when you're watching regular TV, they say, oh, we interrupt this programming for this news flash, or first reported here on our station. That lets you know that, okay, well, is anybody else reporting on it or just you all? So, again, give us some time to see if other people are also talking about that story. So, my other pet peeve, sloppy writing. If you're reading an article and it's got a bunch of misspellings in it, right. Grammatical errors, then it's probably not real, which means that the company didn't pay for an editor, so they really don't care about the content that they're putting out. So I'll be concerned about anything that you're reading that's in print on social media and on the internet that's written very poorly because of sloppy writing and or mistakes. So
I'm going to read this, right? I thought that was interesting. So, a producer at CBS, 60 Minutes, I can't pronounce his last name, it's spelled Radutzky, says fake news is considered to be stories that are probably false, but have enormous traction, popular appeal in the culture, and are consumed by millions of people. These stories are not only found in politics, but also in areas like vaccinations, stock values, and nutrition. Mm-hmm. He did not include that the news, he did not include news that is, quote unquote, invoked by politicians against the media for stories that they do not like, or for comments they do not like.
A la Donald Trump and his fake news.
Donald Trump.
Yeah, fake news can't just be something that you don't like, which is what Donald Trump's saying, and it sounds like the reference in the article. But just because you don't like it and they're reporting on you in a not so favorable light, then you can't just call it fake news.
Right. So. What we are talking about are stories that are fabricated out of thin air by most measures, deliberately, and by any definition that's a lie. Now, because the internet is so vast, depending on where you put it, it could just spread like wildfire before you get hold of it. And once millions of people get it, it becomes true because that's what they believe, right? Mm-hmm. So that's crazy. Like, fake news is all around us.
Mm-hmm. That's why
like
they had those people that had to go, look, I want to say, what was his name? Tim Apple, that had to go talk to,
oh, yeah.
had to go talk to the Senate. The Facebook, founder of Facebook, they had to go before the U.S. Senate and talk about, hey, how you're putting this information out and you're just letting anyone say anything anywhere. Yeah. So by the time it gets out, we're like, well, yeah, that's probably true. That Kim Kardashian, she got a pole in her back. She's half robot.
And there's no verification. So someone could put something on the internet, on a blog, it could get picked up by a major source, and it goes. And there's no verification because things happen in real time. That's true. Crazy.
That's true.
How much, just everything is lies out here, maybe.
And which is why, you have to do your due diligence. There, the last couple of points about ways to find and spot fake news, not only looking for quotes, are they quoting an actual person, a real person, checking the date, when did the story come from? Did the story come from, was the story written in 2011? Was the story written in 2004? So you certainly want to check the date to see where the information come from. But there are also sites that are committed to investigating fake news and making sure that they're getting the best information out there for you. Sewanee University in Tennessee, and you guys are welcome to go check that out on their site. Snopes.com is a good source for you to check for credible information. Factcheck.org. And here in the DMV, the Washington Post actually has a fact checker site to where you can go in and type up information and look for most of the news stories that are coming out, whether or not they're mostly factual or not, and or whether or not they're an opinion piece. Here in our area, the Enoch Pratt Free Library up in Baltimore, they have an acronym that they use to help find these types of things. Is it fact or is it crap? CRAAP, the acronym.
Is it fact or is it crap?
Mm-hmm. And the C's stand for currency. Is it a current news story? Is it reliable? Who's the authority? Who wrote it? Is it accurate? And P, what's the purpose? What's the point of view that it's being written for? So, yeah, don't just listen to anybody when they tell you something, and don't just spread anything that you hear because it may not be real. And so, again, Facebook family, when you send me stuff, I'm going to have to start calling y'all out. Why you send me this? This is not even real.
Right.
So.
They're trying to get you to promote fake news.
Y'all trying to dumb me down. Y'all know I need all the help that I can get. Come on now. No, okay.
That's not fake news.
Look, that's real news. We're trying to stay on top of the game, which is also why, when you tune into the show, I also try to give you the links and let you know where I got this information from. By all means, let me know if I've said something or you think that I've put some information out there that's not true. Yep. Let us know. We always want to make sure that we're giving you the most recent, up-to-date, factual information with a little bit of Shaynel's 3 cents on the commentary. That's always going to be an opinion
piece. And comic relief from me.
And comic relief from Mr. Me over here. So, again, thank you so much for coming out and having the show with us today. We appreciate you all for watching, those of you that are watching on YouTube, those of you that are watching as part of our Facebook family. And as always, we hope you've liked everything that you heard here on Shaynel's 3 cents. But if not, at least you heard it. We'll see you back next week. Boop, boop.